I am 33 years old, and my name is Aisha. When people look at me, they often see a woman who has worked diligently, achieved success, and carved out a life that many would envy. I have a stable job, a house that I've worked hard to make into a home, and a lifestyle that, on the surface, seems like the epitome of success. Yet, despite all these accomplishments, deep within my heart, I often feel a profound emptiness. While I've been focused on climbing the career ladder, nurturing my personal ambitions, and securing the material comforts that many dream of, there has always been one glaring absence in my life, a piece of the puzzle that I cannot seem to find: love. It's strange, really. For as long as I can remember, I've never been in a romantic relationship. Not once. Isn't that unusual? Most people my age have at least some kind of love story to tell, stories about first loves, messy breakups, and whirlwind romances. They reminisce about that first crush, that exhilarating moment when someone made their heart race with excitement. But for me, none of that exists. There are no long conversations late into the night, no bouquets of roses on Valentine's Day, and certainly no one special to call my own. I used to wonder, and sometimes still do, if there's something wrong with me. Is it that I've been too consumed by my career, too focused on my ambitions? Or perhaps I'm just too shy, or too scared to take a leap of faith when it comes to love. Over the years, I've watched many of my friends fall in love, get married, and start families. While I'm genuinely happy for them, a small, quiet voice inside me asks, why not me? It's not as though I haven't tried. There have been a few dates here and there, but each one has always felt awkward, as though I didn't quite fit in. Maybe I'm too picky, or maybe I haven't yet crossed paths with the right person. Whatever the reason, the years have passed, and now, here I am, at 33, still waiting for my own love story to begin. There are moments, particularly when I sit alone in the quiet of my home, that I reflect on what could have been. I think about how different my life might have turned out if only I had opened my heart more. If only someone had stayed by my side. But of course, regrets won't change the past. And as I gaze toward the future, I can't help but wonder, is it still possible to have the life I've always dreamed of? Even if love hasn't found its way to me, is it too late for me to find happiness in a different form? Still, no matter how much I try to convince myself that I'm content, the reality remains unchanged. Here I am, in my 30s, with no partner, no children, and sometimes, it feels like I'm carrying the weight of that truth on my shoulders. When I see friends posting pictures of their families online, celebrating birthdays, anniversaries, and milestones, with little feet running around or laughing voices filling the air, I can't help but pause. Those pictures make me think, what about me? Lately, the thought of having a child has been on my mind more and more. It's not just a passing fantasy. It's a longing that has been in my heart for as long as I can remember. I've always dreamed of being a mother. I imagine the feel of a tiny hand curling around my fingers, their soft skin warm against mine, as if they instinctively know they're safe. I dream of hearing their first laugh, the kind of laugh that lights up the room and melts away all the worries in the world. I picture watching a child grow, their personality unfolding with each passing day, whether they're quiet and introspective or loud and adventurous. To be there with them as they explore the world, to guide them as they find their way, seems like the most meaningful thing I could ever do. But each time this dream comes into my thoughts, another question follows. How do I do this without a partner? Society, seems, has a prescribed order for these things. You meet someone, fall in love, get married, and then start a family. That's the way it's supposed to happen, right? But here I am, with no partner in sight, and my desire for a child only grows stronger. Is it wrong to yearn for this so deeply? Could I really take this step on my own? The thought is both thrilling and terrifying. I know it wouldn't be easy. Raising a child as a single mother would come with its own set of challenges, whether financial, emotional, or social. But I am fortunate in many ways. I am financially independent and able to provide for myself, and the emotional resources I've built within myself over the years are plentiful. My family has always been incredibly supportive of me. And for that, I am deeply grateful. They've been there to celebrate every success and provide comfort during difficult times. But lately, I've sensed a growing concern from them. It's not something they say out loud all the time, but I can feel it in their words, in their glances, and in the subtle shifts in the tone of our conversations. My mother, in particular, is no longer able to hide her concerns. She's always been a woman who speaks her mind, and when it comes to my life, she holds nothing back. "Aisha, you're not getting any younger," she says. Almost every time we speak, her voice is gentle but firm, a mixture of love and worry that's impossible to ignore. "When are you going to settle down and give me grandchildren?" she asks, her eyes searching mine for an answer I simply don't have. It's a question that stings, not because I don't want those things, but because I do, so badly. Yet, I have no idea how to make them happen. I know her words come from a place of care and concern. She grew up in a time when marriage and family were seen as the pinnacle of success for a woman. To her, my accomplishments in my career mean little if I don't have a family of my own to share them with. And yet, every time she brings this up, I feel a wave of guilt and frustration. I've spent so many years pouring my energy into building my career, working tirelessly to create a life that I can be proud of. Yet, in her eyes, something is still missing. Maybe she's right. Maybe there is indeed a void in my life that needs to be filled. But the question remains, can I fill it? And if so, how? I often wonder if my mother truly realizes the weight of her words. I hear her voice in my quiet moments, echoing in my mind, reminding me of the clock I'm racing against. But what can I say to her? That I've tried? That I'm scared? That I'm not even sure where to start? So, I smile and nod, offering vague responses like, "Soon, Mama," or "I'm working on it." But inside, I feel the pressure mounting. I love my mother deeply, but her words constantly remind me of everything I have yet to figure out. I don't know how to tell her that I'm just as uncertain and anxious as she is. The truth is, I feel that pressure, too. It's not just my family's concern that weighs on me. It's the pervasive sense of societal expectation. There seems to be this unspoken rule, a timeline that everyone else is following, and I'm supposed to be on that same track. By the time I reached 33, I was supposed to have a husband, children, and a family of my own. It's as though these milestones are the true measure of success, especially for a woman. Everywhere I go, I am reminded of this. At weddings, people ask, "When is it your turn?" At baby showers, friends smile knowingly and say, "You'll understand when it's your time." Even strangers feel the need to offer unsolicited advice, as if my personal life is their business to comment on. At times, feels overwhelming, like I'm carrying an invisible weight that no one else sees, but everyone else adds to. The looks, the questions, the assumptions, they all make me feel like I've missed a step, or that I've failed somehow. And even though I know, deep down, that this isn't true, it's hard not to internalize it. I've worked tirelessly to build a life that I can truly be proud of. Over the years, I've carefully crafted a career that not only supports me financially, but also brings me a sense of fulfillment and purpose every day. I've created a home that feels like my own sanctuary, a place where I can relax and be myself. And perhaps most importantly, I am surrounded by a circle of friends who bring so much joy, laughter, and comfort into my life. Yet, despite all these achievements, there are moments when it feels like none of that matters to the world around me. If I don't have a ring on my finger or a child in my arms, it's as if my worth is diminished in the eyes of society. And still, deep down, I know I am not alone in this. Countless women like me are navigating the same unspoken, often overwhelming, societal expectations. We are all trying to carve out our own paths in a world that seems hell-bent on defining us by the things we lack rather than the beautiful, full lives we have built. I remind myself of this truth whenever the pressure feels unbearable, and I cling to the hope that my story isn't over yet, that there is more to come, and it doesn't have to look like what others expect. One quiet night, as I sat on my bed, staring at the ceiling, a thought kept repeating itself in my mind. I want a baby. The longing was deep, stirring something within me that I had pushed aside for years. I had been waiting for the right man to come into my life. But what if he never does? Should I give up on my dream of becoming a mother? Or is there another way? Unable to push the thought away any longer, I picked up my phone and began to search. My heart raced with a mix of excitement, fear, and anticipation. For the first time, I allowed myself to entertain the idea of making this dream come true on my own terms, of taking control of my future, and embracing the possibility of motherhood without needing a partner by my side. As I typed in phrases like how to have a baby as a single woman, my phone screen flooded with a multitude of options: sperm donation, adoption, surrogacy. Each one seemed like a potential pathway, each filled with its own challenges and complications, but also offering a glimmer of hope. Sperm donation caught my attention first. The thought of it felt clinical, impersonal even, but there was something powerful about the idea of creating life, of becoming a mother, even without a partner. It filled me with a sense of empowerment. Then there was adoption, the thought of giving a child who might otherwise have no home a loving family, a chance to thrive, was deeply moving. But the adoption process seemed daunting, long, complicated, filled with paperwork, interviews, and endless approvals. Could I handle that? Could I navigate that alone? Finally, surrogacy. The thought of bringing a child into the world with the help of another woman was beautiful, but it also seemed incredibly complex, both emotionally and financially. Each option felt like stepping into the unknown, yet it also reminded me that my dream of motherhood was not out of reach. It was within my grasp, even if it had to look different than I had imagined. I spent hours scrolling through websites, reading stories from women who had walked this path before me. Many of them were single mothers by choice, brave, strong women who had taken the leap, followed their hearts, and made their dreams of motherhood a reality. Their stories inspired me and gave me the courage to believe that I, too, could make this work. The process was overwhelming, to say the least. There were so many decisions to make, so many questions I didn't have answers to yet. But it was also exhilarating. For the first time in a long time, I could see a clear road ahead, one that I could walk alone if I was brave enough to take that first step. As I stared at my phone, I felt a spark of hope ignite within me. This was my life, my journey, and my dream. And maybe, just maybe, I had the power to make it come true. But was I truly ready? Could I raise a child on my own? These questions haunted me, filling me with doubt and uncertainty. But deep down, I knew that ignoring this longing any longer wasn't an option. I had to act. The next day, I met with my two closest friends, Zara and Kimmy, at our favorite cafe. We settled into a cozy corner, sipping coffee and catching up on life. After a few minutes, I broke the silence. "I've been thinking about having a baby," I said, my voice trembling slightly. Both of them looked at me, their eyes wide with surprise. "Are you serious?" Zara asked, her voice filled with disbelief. "Absolutely," I replied, feeling a sense of determination wash over me. "I'm tired of waiting for the perfect man to come into my life. I want to take control of my future, my happiness." Kimmy's face softened, and she smiled. "Aisha, if anyone can do this, it's you. You've always been so strong, so capable. I have no doubt that you'll be an amazing mother." Their support meant more to me than words could express. For the first time, I felt like this dream of mine, this hope of becoming a mother, might actually become a reality. But as I began to seriously plan my next steps, doubts crept in. What if I wasn't a good mother? What if I couldn't handle the responsibility financially, emotionally, physically on my own? The questions plagued my mind. One night, I sat down with a notebook and wrote out all my fears. I listed every possible worst-case scenario, and then, for each one, I wrote down potential solutions. If I was truly going to do this, I needed to prepare myself for every challenge that might come my way. I spent weeks researching every available option. I learned about sperm banks, fertility treatments, adoption processes, and surrogacy. Each path had its pros and cons, but after careful consideration, I found myself drawn to the idea of artificial insemination. felt like the most straightforward route, at least for now. I made an appointment with a fertility clinic. Walking through those doors for the first time was terrifying. The waiting room was quiet, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I didn't quite belong there. But when the doctor greeted me with a warm, reassuring smile, I felt a little better. We talked about my medical history, my goals, and the process of artificial insemination. It was overwhelming, but also empowering. It felt like the first step towards something real. The next hurdle was choosing a sperm donor. The clinic provided me with access to a database filled with donor profiles. It felt strange, almost like online dating. But instead of searching for a romantic partner, I was searching for the man who would help bring my child into the world. I looked for someone who was healthy, intelligent, and kind-hearted, someone I would be proud to have as the father of my child. After days of careful consideration, I found a donor who seemed like the perfect match. The day of the procedure arrived, and my emotions were a whirlwind. There was excitement, yes, but also nerves and uncertainty. It felt like standing on the edge of something monumental, knowing that life as I knew it would change forever. I woke up early that morning, unable to sleep. My mind raced with thoughts of what this moment could mean for my future. Would this really work? Was I about to take the first step toward finally becoming a mother? The possibilities filled me with hope, but they also scared me. What if it didn't go as planned? What if my dream slipped through my fingers? When I arrived at the clinic, everything felt surreal. The staff was kind, calm, and professional, their reassuring presence helping to ease my nerves. I went through the final steps, listening to the explanations with a sense of detached focus, my mind still spinning with questions and anticipation. This was it. I was really doing this. This version elaborates on the original, providing deeper insight into the character's thoughts and emotions while expanding on the various stages of her decision-making process and the challenges she faces. The procedure itself was surprisingly swift and virtually painless. I had braced myself for something more dramatic, expecting discomfort or perhaps a more intense experience. But before I could even process it, it was already over. It was a strange mix of relief and disbelief, a feeling of stepping back from the edge of something monumental. Still, deep down, I knew the real challenge lay ahead. The waiting. That was the hardest part. Each passing day felt like an eternity. I couldn't help but wonder what was going on inside my body. If life was beginning to take shape in those quiet moments, every tiny sensation, every twinge or feeling in my body sent me into a spiral of questions. Is this a sign? Could it be happening already? The next 2 weeks dragged on, each day stretching out endlessly in front of me. Every moment was filled with a mixture of hope and doubt, fear and excitement, all wrapped into one emotional whirlwind. I found myself overanalyzing every little sensation in my body, constantly wondering if something was happening. A small cramp in my stomach, a wave of nausea, or even just feeling more tired than usual. I clung to each of these as though they might hold the key to what was happening. Could they be signs? Were they little clues that everything was on track? Or was I just imagining it? At the same time, I tried to keep my excitement in check. I reminded myself not to get too carried away, to keep my hopes realistic, just in case the outcome wasn't what I dreamed of. But despite my best efforts to stay grounded, there was always that little voice whispering in the back of my mind. What if it worked? What if this time, everything would fall into place? In an effort to distract myself, I threw myself into work, keeping my hands and mind busy with projects and tasks that took up my time. I buried myself in books, watched movies, and spent long hours chatting with friends on the phone, anything to take my mind off the waiting. Yet, no matter how hard I tried, it was impossible to shake the feeling that my life was on the verge of changing in ways I couldn't even imagine. Each day felt like a small eternity, as I counted the hours, the days, the minutes, and every night, as I lay in bed, I found myself wondering, was this the night that would change everything? Would I wake up to a new reality? Finally, the call came. I had spent the entire day glancing anxiously at my phone, jumping at every buzz, every ring, hoping it would be the clinic calling with the news I had been waiting for. When I saw their number flash across the screen, My heart nearly leapt out of my chest. I picked up the phone with trembling hands, my mouth dry, barely able to say a word. The silence on the other end stretched on for what seemed like forever. And with each passing second, my anxiety grew, my chest tightened, my breath shallow, as I waited, hoping, praying for good news. And then the voice on the other end finally spoke. "Ms. Aisha," the nurse said, calm and professional, though I could barely focus on her words. My entire body was a bundle of nerves, waiting for the outcome. I couldn't help but think, this is it. This is the moment I've been waiting for. And then came the words I had been longing to hear. "You're pregnant." I couldn't believe it. The tears came quickly, streaming down my face as I whispered a thank you into the phone. This was real. My dream had finally come true. I had worked so hard for this moment, and now it was here. I couldn't wait to share the news with my friends. That evening, I invited Zara and Kimi over for dinner. As we sat around the table, I could hardly contain my excitement. I blurted it out before I could stop myself. "I'm pregnant." Their reactions were immediate and full of joy. Zara jumped up and hugged me tightly, her voice filled with excitement. "Aisha, this is amazing," she exclaimed. Kimi, ever the optimist, laughed and said, "I knew you could do it. You're going to be an incredible mom." Their reactions filled me with reassurance and warmth. For the first time in a long while, I felt like I was exactly where I was meant to be. There was a sense of peace that washed over me, knowing I had such incredible friends by my side to share in this journey. But telling my family was a different experience. I knew my mother would have mixed feelings, so I decided to approach the situation delicately. One weekend, when I visited her, I sat down with her over tea. "Mema," I began, my voice steady despite the nerves bubbling up inside me. "There's something I need to tell you. I'm pregnant." Her reaction was immediate and intense. "Pregnant? But how? Who's the father?" she asked, her voice laced with shock and concern. I took a deep breath, bracing myself. I explained the entire process, the procedure, my decision to embark on this journey alone, and how much I longed to be a mother. She listened in silence for a long time, her face unreadable. Finally, she spoke, her voice softening. "Aisha, I may not fully understand your decision, but you're my daughter. I will support you." Hearing those words meant the world to me. It wasn't the immediate enthusiasm I had hoped for, but it was a start. It was a sign that, despite her reservations, my mother still had my back, and that gave me the strength to keep moving forward. The first ultrasound was an unforgettable moment. When I saw the tiny heartbeat flicker on the screen, tears welled up in my eyes. It was real. My baby was growing inside me. The doctor handed me a printout of the image, and I couldn't stop staring at it. I held it close, feeling a deep connection to the tiny life inside me. As my pregnancy progressed, I dove into preparations. I attended prenatal classes, read countless parenting books, and began setting up the nursery. Shopping for baby clothes and toys felt surreal. Each item I bought was a tangible step closer to meeting my child. The reality of it all began to sink in, and excitement took over. Not everyone understood or supported my decision, though. Some relatives, people I had known for years, questioned my choice to have a baby without a husband. Their concerns were wrapped in judgment, and each comment stung more than the last. "Aisha, don't you think the child will need a father?" they asked, their voices tinged with doubt and disapproval. The questions lingered in the air, heavy with the weight of their unspoken criticisms. First, their words made me question everything. Was I making a mistake? Was I somehow denying my child something essential by choosing this path alone? The doubts crept in, swirling like dark clouds over my mind. But then, I would take a deep breath and remind myself why I was doing this. I wasn't doing this for anyone else. I was doing it because I knew in my heart that I was ready to be a mother. I had the love, the stability, and the determination to create a home filled with warmth and care. My child would have everything they needed to grow, to thrive, and to feel loved unconditionally. I wasn't truly doing this alone. I had a strong network of family and friends who supported me. Even if they didn't fully understand my choices, they were my rock. And I knew they would be there for both me and my child, no matter what. Their words still stung from time to time, but deep down, I knew that what mattered most was the love I could offer. My child would feel that love every day, and that was all that mattered. Love wasn't about having a perfect family, it was about the people who showed up, who cared, and who never stopped loving. I was certain of that. Zara and Kimi threw the most beautiful baby shower for me. It was a joyous occasion, filled with laughter, gifts, and love. As I opened presents and shared stories with my family and friends, I realized how incredibly blessed I was to have such a strong support system. Pregnancy wasn't always easy. There were days when I felt utterly exhausted, and nights when back pain kept me awake. But every time I felt a little kick or movement, I was reminded of the beautiful life that awaited me at the end of this journey. The day I had been waiting for had finally arrived, and with it came a mixture of emotions that I could hardly comprehend. I woke up early in the morning with a strange feeling deep within me, something I could not quite describe but knew was a sign of what was to come. By midday, the contractions began, signaling the start of a journey I had longed for, yet never truly understood. Zara, my closest friend, drove me to the hospital, her presence comforting me in the midst of the chaos. I felt a whirlwind of excitement and fear swirling inside me, knowing that soon, my life would be forever changed. Hours of labor passed, each moment feeling both endless and fleeting. The pain was unbearable at times, but in between the contractions, my heart raced with anticipation. And then, finally, I heard it, the sound I had been waiting for, my baby's first cry. A wave of relief and joy washed over me as the nurse placed the tiny, fragile bundle into my arms. I stared at the little face, overwhelmed with a rush of love I had never experienced before. I whispered softly to her, "Welcome to the world, my little miracle." My voice trembling with emotion. She was perfect, and in that moment, my entire world shifted. Bringing my baby home was nothing like I had imagined. It wasn't just the joy I had expected. It was a whole new world of sleepless nights, endless diaper changes, and constant feedings. The exhaustion was overwhelming at times, but it didn't matter. Every smile, every little coo from my baby made every sacrifice feel worth it. The exhaustion was temporary, but the joy was eternal. And then came the moment I had been waiting for, choosing her name. I wanted a name that would embody the love and hope I had for her, something meaningful that she could carry with her throughout her life. After much thought, I chose the name Zuri, which means beautiful. When I looked into her bright, curious eyes, I knew it was the perfect choice. She was my beautiful little girl, inside and out. Being a single mother was challenging, more than I had ever imagined. There were times when I felt overwhelmed, as I tried to balance work, taking care of Zuri, and managing everything in between. The weight of it all was heavy, but every moment of struggle was tempered by the sound of Zuri's laughter, her joy, her innocence, and her love gave me the strength I needed to keep going. Even on the toughest days, I had to learn to be more than just a mother. I had to learn to be strong, resilient, and self-sufficient. As Zuri grew, so did my dreams. My focus shifted from what I had once wanted in my life to what I could give her. I wanted to provide her with the best life possible, to create opportunities for her that I hadn't had. I worked tirelessly, juggling multiple responsibilities, all with the goal of giving her everything she deserved. But in doing so, I also realized that I had the power to dream again, not about the life I thought I would have, but about the life I could create for myself, for her, and for us together. Perhaps, one day, love would come into my life. But for now, my heart was full with Zuri. She was my priority, and nothing else mattered more. Looking back, I realize I have no regrets. The journey I've been on has been anything but conventional, and it certainly hasn't been easy. It was not the path others expected me to take, but it was the one that felt right for me. There were moments of doubt, when I questioned whether I was making the right choices. But deep down, I knew this was the path I needed to follow. The life I envisioned for myself didn't look like what I thought it would, but it was beautiful in its own way. And every moment I spend with Zuri reminds me that love isn't about finding the perfect partner or following a prescribed timeline. It's about creating something meaningful and filled with joy, regardless of the circumstances. I may not have had a boyfriend or walked down the aisle with someone by my side, and I may not have followed the traditional steps that society often expects. But I have something far greater than any of that, Zuri. My precious child. She fills my heart in ways that words can hardly describe. Every day, she shows me that love is not about following a checklist or meeting societal expectations. It's about the moments we create together, the memories we make, and the joy we bring into each other's lives. There are moments when I look at her and feel an overwhelming joy, a deep sense of peace that comes from knowing I made the right choice for myself. I don't need a perfect partner, or a perfect family, or a perfect life to be happy. What I need is Zuri. My little girl fills my world with laughter, love, and meaning in ways I never imagined possible. In her eyes, I see everything I've always hoped for and more. And in that, I find my peace. I am exactly where I'm supposed to be. Zuri didn't come from the life I once envisioned for myself, but in every smile, every giggle, and every precious moment we share, I realize that this life, our life, is more fulfilling and beautiful than I could have ever imagined. And for that, I am grateful beyond words. My journey may have been different, but it's mine, and it's perfect in its own way. Thank you for taking the time to watch my videos. If you find the content useful and interesting, don't forget to like, share, and especially subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new videos. Their channels will update attractive, inspiring, and useful content for you. Click the bell icon to receive notifications as soon as there are new videos. The biggest motivation for us to continue developing. Thank you and see you in the next videos.